So what have we bought this time? Well, it's certainly not an M3. I know it looks like it, but it's far from it. But it's still a cool car. And we all know, myself and Inspired, I personally have a thing for BMWs. Obviously, we've got the Porsche. I love them to bits, but I've still always seemed to go back to a BMW. I definitely like a replica, and I also like a bit of a challenge. And that's the reason why we've got the car behind us. Now, what this actually is literally just a 318. So it's probably the most basic of the engines that you could get out of an F-Series BMW. But saying that, my Porsche GTT or GEETMU 4 or GT4 Killer was a base 2-litre Cayman. So you can see where I'm going here. Now, we bought this last night. We did a deal with the Corsa VXR. The gentleman who we got this off had honestly spent a ridiculous amount of money on it, to the point where he didn't just upgrade things, he fixed, from what I can tell, everything it needed. Even down to a slightly noisy fan, which these cars tend to get, which you don't even really hear, but he changed all that. And some of these kind of fixes can actually take quite a bit of time to do for something that people don't generally bother with. But where he has spent the money is he's bought, obviously, the M3 body kit, side skirts, front splitter, diffuser, spoiler, things like that. They're not the big money. Changing the bonnet and buying replica bumpers, as you can see on this car, are. Now, what's been done on the car? And we haven't done this. We're not going to pretend this is our build. It's not. What we're here to do is basically perfect it and improve it. Now, this has got a proper metal bonnet, which is a big thing. I didn't want a fiberglass bonnet. I wouldn't have taken it if it was. They're just crap. It's also got proper plastic bumpers. Yes, the replica bumpers, but this is a replica M3 bumper. It looks pretty much the same. We all know it's not as wide. That's the difference. It's also got the M3 bumper on the rear. He's got the mirrors, obviously cheap option. We all know that they're just 30, 40 quid, but it's just a subtle finish. The spoilers he's got on it are probably the spoilers I would have chose myself. He's done the black grills and he's done the anniversary badges. And these are all the things I would have probably done myself anyway. Now, he's also gone to the extent of changing the cloth interior. Wasn't really my choice of colour if I had it. He's gone for the red interior on the car. Again, like I say, it's probably not something I'd choose, but actually it doesn't look too bad. Considered changing the seats to M3 seats, but to be fair, it's money that isn't going to add value to the car, so we're probably not going to do that. Where are we with the car? Well, truthfully, it's a really nice looking car. He's spent money on it. It's had a lot of work done on it. It's had a full exhaust system. It's got a really good sound for a 318. It's been mapped to suit the exhaust. He's put brand new CSL style wheels on it, brand new tyres, the budget tyres, but it's a 318. We can probably deal with that. The issue is with this car is the shocking paint finish. Now, I'm going to say shocking because actually it's been done pretty well. This, to me, has been done what you would feel or see from a Coachworks place. Now, if any of you newer guys or younger lads don't really know what that is, Coachworks are more old school painters that they did paint anything you want to be. They're not coaches like you think, but they used to literally just throw a shitload of paint on the car and get a really nice wet finish and it'd go out, but there'd be defects in it. But generally it's for commercial vehicles or quick finishes and so on. And that's pretty much what this has had. So this is also done in 2-pack. 2-pack is not what your car is probably painted in. Now, your car will have lacquer on it, which you know the word of, and that is because you do the primer, the base, and then the lacquer. This is completely different. This is old school paint on a new school car. This is sort of from the 80s and 90s. And this is what you see with like XR2s and so on, if you remember them. Now, there's good and bad points to this, and I'm starting to remember the good points of it, because you can actually buff this paint much better. It's tougher, it doesn't get scratches and swirls as easy, and you can really give it some hammer, but there's risks involved. And that's when it comes down to, if you buff it wrong, you don't know what paint's there, or there's defects in it, you can be a little bit limited. Now, the paint finish, why is it good but bad? Well, whoever's painted it's done a pretty good job of getting a nice finish, as in like a smooth layer, and not getting any particular runs in it because it's pretty much a gum finish from what we can tell. The issue is there is dust, dirt and fish eyes in it. Now what I mean by that is bits of dust or dirt that have fallen in it, or it's blistered, or a fish eyes where it kind of reacts, or it's just dirt that's physically coming from the air, like bits of dust and landed in it while it's been painted, which tends to happen in your coach works type places or just backstreet garages, backstreet paint shops. The issue with that, you need to wet sand them. Now, if that was in lacquer, sometimes that can be a little bit easier because you can just flat the lacquer and obviously repaint it, but you can burn through the lacquer. This, or I should say the reason we bought this is the customer told me how much paint he'd put on this car. And because I know how much he's put on that car, it means we can wet sand the car. Now, what you'll see us doing at the minute is we've wet sanded this whole bonnet, the bumper, and quite a lot of the sides. I've still got the boot to do, which is something I'm going to show you on a video later on, or later on in this video, because you're going to see how bad it actually is now and how we're going to improve it. Now, the main reason I got this is because this is going to be good for the channel. I'm an old school detailer. I've been doing this since 1999. A lot of people out there don't even know how to use something like this, because this is not your typical buffer. This is a Rotary old school buffer with a wall pad, or a mop that you might call it. And that's because we're having to buff like we would 20 years ago when we were working on cars back then, which is where I kind of started painting, and obviously my knowledge of paint came from. Now, we've done quite a lot of sanding on this. We've actually gone down to, I think, 800 grit, which is pretty damn low, like, to get some of this out, but we can work with it, which is great. You wouldn't be able to do that on a new car. The defects, the biggest issues on this car is what I'm going to show you right now. Now, these vents that you see here should be black and the green. And I don't know why they've been painted in. Just take them out. Somebody couldn't be bothered to take them out, and it's a bit disappointing to see because they look crap in green as well. The problem is we've got paint around the actual vent, and if we try and pull this out, it's going to crack the paint on the wing and the vent. So what we've got to do is mask this up in fine detail and then scotch this and paint this on the car while the car's bagged up, and that's not going to be an easy task to get that finish right. It's also the same that you'll see down here, and it's the same on the back. So these particular bits of the bumper have been painted green. They should be black. So we're going to have to mask those and repaint those again in situ on the car. That's the tricky part to it, but that's what's going to make this project pretty cool. The other issue we found, the door handle's been painted on the car. It's a torque bolt and it just falls out. But that's been painted in the car, which means the lock has been painted in the car. And that's the first thing we saw. We were like, well, actually, that lock's going to crack now if we don't cut it, and it could possibly crack if you put a key in it because it's been painted on the car. Then we noticed that the rubbers have been painted green because they haven't taken the handles off or even masked them. That's a tricky one. I don't know how we're going to fix that. We may have to take the handles off, hope the paint doesn't crack and put new rubbers in. I think that's probably going to be the option. We've then also noticed that they haven't taken the window strips off, which means we've got a bit of overspray, we've got dry patches, a really dry patch there, but we've also got a bit of white underneath where the car was previously white because the strips haven't been taken off. So we're going to have to paint and prep and mask and do some really fiddly work on those areas. Around the windows, well, guess what? They've not been masked up and they need quite a lot of work. And that's not going to be a good fix. And someone's tried to put a bit of black paint on here to hide the fact it's got paint on it. So that's something we're going to have to deal with. The pitting and marring, which you're definitely going to see on the rear boot, I'm going to show you that in a minute. That's shocking. That needs a lot of work. But these are all things we can work with. Now, I'm not going to get this car to a mint standard. And there's a reason for it. It's not my main car. It's not going to be the demo car for the business for a long time. It's just going to be here for this show season. And I'm just going to get it to a seriously high level where the next owner can enjoy this car, because it may be that owner goes to car washers or doesn't look after the paint the way we do. So by me spending probably 100 hours minting this, not going to really benefit. That's why we took the project on. we are going to show you what we can do with this car. We are going to really get this car to a good level where it does stand out. We go to places locally and you see it and it looks really cool, but you know the history of it. We're not only going to be fixing the paint, sorting out the black sections and sorting out knackered rubbers and so on, we're also going to be updating it. Now, we've been doing a lot of CarPlay installs recently, and I want to show you what we're going to be doing on this, because we're going to be fitting a 12-inch screen to the middle, because this has got the smallest screen in the world. Doesn't even have Bluetooth where I can connect music to it. It's just for the phone. That needs to change. We're also going to be putting the G80 style digital cockpit in the actual car, so we've got the latest technology, and we can show you that as a demo car. And if that's something you want installing, you're going to be able to see how they work and actually sit in our car, get to use them, see how we fit them, and obviously book in and have that fitted with us ourselves. If you want to know a little bit more about that, we did a 135i yesterday. It's on the social media channels. Go and have a look at that and you'll see the install we did on that. Now, the other areas we need to work on with this car, and I'm not sure where we're going to go with it, because the headlights are shocking. They look crap. They're definitely not an M-spec type headlight, and they need changing. The problem is these headlights are going to be 500 quid to change, and I don't think that's going to add any value to the car. So that's something we need to look into. If you've got any ideas, give us a shout. If you've got a set of headlights going for one of these, send us a DM. You never know, we might be able to work a deal out with something, but that's something we're going to have to change. As you can see, there's a hole here, and that's because, and I don't know why, somebody's fitted this. These don't work. There's no washer jets behind here because it's not that spec of car. But instead of putting a bit of Tiger Seal or sealant to hold the actual cap on, they've messed about for hours fitting wood screws that didn't fit right, and it meant it didn't fit right, and it hung off, and it looked shocking. So we've ripped it off, and we're just going to glue this on, because that's the best resolution and the easiest fix. But anyway, that's enough talking. Myself and Dan are going to get back on the car. You're going to see what we've been doing on it, and we're probably going to spend the next 5 hours trying to buff this bonnet up to a really high standard so you can see what it looks like. Now, one of the last steps on the wet sanding part of this car is to sort the boot. And it's because it's by far the worst. It's honestly, it's shocking. Like, the whole car wasn't great, but this boot is just absolutely ridiculous. If I was to count the amount of dust particles, flat spots, fish eyes, there's got to be in excess of 150, 200. You can hear them for a start, and then what you're going to see now in the video is how bad this actually is. And I don't think the camera is actually picking up, to be fair, how bad this actually is. What we're going to do is we're going to have to go around to something like an 800, I think, again, and take this down. Then we'll go with a 12, then go with a 2, 3, and then into a 5,000. And I think that's the only way we're going to be able to machine this back without it being full of sanding marks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and attempt to actually do that. Now, I'm going to be honest, this car's kind of killed me. It's become more of a job than I thought it was going to become, and truthfully, we figured out, I know I sound a bit kind of knackered, I am, and I'm a bit, I'll be honest, this car kind of did me in yesterday, but the boot was shocking.
When you see the boot now, you'll see how much better it is, and it's pretty, I'd say it's about 80% where it needed to be under our light, and that's because there is a few little DA marks still in there from sanding, and we're going on to using basically Trizax today to sort the bonnet, because we thought the paint was going to allow us to wet sand and it blend, and it didn't. It's bizarre. I don't really know how it's been done. Two-pack should let you mould. When you get it super hot with the right pad, it blends itself down, and this isn't really doing that. It's actually acting more like a lacquer, which makes no sense. So I really don't know how he's painted it. Now, this is me jumping the gun because this is obviously one of our cars, but I just basically sanded all the bonnet, sanded the tops of the doors, the A-pillars, the boot, and the areas that are really bad, and then just got on with it, where what I should have probably done, which is what I would have done with a customer's car, is you do a test spot, and you just kind of patch test it and see how you go from there, and I didn't do that, and that's my own fault. So it has kind of killed me off a little bit, this car. And I'll be honest, the mess it's making in the unit is freaking me out, because we're going to have to clean the crap out of this unit before I do any more PPF again. And that's why we don't tend to do this sort of work nowadays. But it's made such a mess, it's just freaking me out. I don't like mess. The issue we've got now is we don't really know how much more paint we've got spare. We don't want to go through it, and we want to make sure there's enough paint left on the car to do any more work without causing an issue. So I've brought the paint gauge out, and I don't like these. People used to rave about them, people used to go on about using them all the time. Details used to rely on them, probably people still do. I'm going to be totally honest and tell you why these don't really work. Now, the reason why these don't really work, in fact, I'm going to show you on the car. So we're going to test this bonnet, right? So top of the bonnet, I've got 206, which is pretty high, but it's not high compared to what it was, and that tells us that we have took quite a bit off there. 198, 238, 282, 258, 249, 260, 229, no, that can't be right, 180, 196, and that's because we've worked more here than we have there. We know that. So the other thing I'm going to show you now on this side, and this is where these gauges kind of help but don't help. 262, and we've cut the hell out of this area. We know we have. 289, and I know we've worked loads there. Now I've worked more here, a lot more here. 270, 243. 258, 302, 327, 287, 331. So this side is way higher in paint than that, even though I've worked a lot there. And this is why I'm going to show you, and I'm going to do it again on the boot here. So if we go to the boot, which we've cut the hell out of, more than anything, the driver's side, 402. 395, 388, 413, and then we go over to the passenger side, 440, 433, 405, 400, right? Back doors, 257, 369, 290, 311, 278. Now, we know we've worked the tops of these doors, which is where most of the dust was, so that's why they're a little bit thinner. But why is that side of the car so much thicker on the front and the back than the rest of the car? And this is where this is helping me, but only because I know something about this car. This car used to be two-tone. So it was previously white, and then they painted it black on that side. Which this is telling me exactly how much paint we've got, but it's not telling me how much we've got here in green. This is telling me the paint. So underneath here, we've got white. Underneath that side, we've got black and then the white. So as good as this is, and it's guided me on this car where we can play with, it's only guided me because I know that that car was black. If you had no history of the car itself, the only thing a paint gauge tells you basically is how much paint there is. It doesn't tell you what levels you've got and why. And this is the reason why I don't rely on these on new cars. I may do the odd test to see if it's had a repaint, and that's it. And that's because you don't know with new cars how much lacquer you've got. This obviously hasn't got lacquer, that's what we're saying. If you did it on a new car and you had 114 to 140, which is average, which just show how high this is, you don't know how much is lacquer. If someone's repainted a car, they might have put 5 coats of base on and then 1 coat of lacquer because they were being stingy, or they just ran out, or they were just trying to do a rush job. Or they may have blathered the crap out of it in lacquer because it was their own car or a mate's car and they knew they could do a lot of sanding on it. But this doesn't really guide you on that. That's where you've got to use your knowledge. That's where you use experience. That's where you use the machine. And you can feel that from the buffer and kind of guide what it feels like, and is it getting tacky, and you can tell how the buffer's reacting. And you've also got to be really clever and not take too much paint off. And this is where I'm going to come into the thing with the other buffers. So, Rotary against DA. Now, a Rotary will do a way better job on a car than a dual action buffer. I don't care what anyone says, and I don't care how anyone contradicts. This is 25 years plus of experience, and I know that a Rotary, which is my kind of tool of the trade, will do a better job than a DA. The two reasons that they do a different job is a Rotary cuts straight, and it cuts hotter, and it cuts deeper, and it gives you a better finish and a more of a refined finish. But a DA, a good DA, especially something like the Rupees, they work in a different way, but they also can actually take 4 times more paint off. So even though they're working in a different way and you don't get your swirls and your holograms, this buffer can actually take away 4 times more paint than what a Rotary can do. And that's where it can make a big difference on the type of buffer that you're actually using. We're doing old school paint, so we're going to be using Rotary. I will probably refine it with a DA, but that's the other thing with the 2 buffers. So most people use these nowadays. You get a really good finish. You can't get the refinement you can with that. I don't care what you're telling me. And the issue with these is they take way too much paint off, especially using the pads that are now out. So just be careful if you're ever going to use one of these. You can get a really good job, you can work them at home, but you will take a lot of paint off, which is what we can't do on this right now, because we have to be cautious about how much we're actually going to be removing. Now, the biggest problem we've got with this particular car at the minute is I don't like doing half a job. My OCD kind of stops me from having a job that's not finished. And it bugs me, which is why I probably didn't sleep very well last night, because really I wanted to get things like this done, you know, where the paint needed doing and bits of painting on there, which is a big job because there's a hell of a lot of masking up to do to get that right. Now, we did stay over last night and we spent 3.5 hours cleaning the interior of the car, which I didn't video because it's a bit boring watching someone with a vacuum. But to be honest, it was pretty clean. I'm not going to say it wasn't. Actually, her previous owner was not a dirty person. It was clean inside. It's just we did a bit more. So we took the seats out, steam cleaned underneath the seats, went through the vents, the dash, and steam cleaned the whole interior, and then we IPA'd the whole interior, then used APC, and then we treated the leather, and it's actually come up really, really good. But it's things like this that I wanted to, they're bugging me, and I need to get them done. The biggest problem is we've got work in. I only really had that 1 day spare, and truthfully, this car, to be really, really good, needs about 10 days, which we're never going to have. We're never going to be able to do. It's a bit of an issue, to be honest with you. I've also noticed that we're getting a little bit of white dotting coming through, so I think we might have to do a touch up on there now. I've seen that, which is showing where the paint's really blistered and the previous colours coming through. So I might actually just put a bit of paint on there before we do the rest of it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump on the job that's actually in. We're going to have to do what we can on this car today and kind of call it a day. We said we were never going to get it mint. Truthfully, we're not. I'd love to spend 10 days on it. It's never going to be that case. We've got too much work in, and it's not the main car for the channel or the business. So I'm going to work on that. Dan's kindly come in again, and he's going to be trizacking the rest of the bonnet. and then we're going to touch the top of the wings, and then we're going to buff the whole car up and just see what sort of level of finish we can get. And then we're going to put just a basic ceramic coating on, just a 12 months angel wax coating on, just because we obviously want it to be protected, and it is going to get out and about a few times this year.
Now what you're going to see here is how dry the car actually is. And when we show you with the camera, the passenger door is hazy, it's got orange peel, it's just rough and textured. And then you get to the rear and you can see a massive refinement, much more gloss, a deeper finish. And that's pretty much what we've had to do on the full car to be able to get such a nice finish.
Now on this car, I actually wanted to put a short plate on it, just because they look cooler, and every time I've had a genuine M3, obviously you have a short plate, because it makes the front just look a little bit more aggressive. And I was going to put the iconic Jizwax reg plate on it, which we've had for probably 26 years now. This was the first private reg we ever bought as a business. And it was because we were obviously the biggest producer of waxes in the UK at the time, and for a long time. And the reason of the first bit is because it went on an E36 M3 and you drove it like a dick. So, hence, Jizwax, if you didn't know what it was. The issue we've got with this car, and this just highlights laziness all over again. They've painted over the double-sided tape that's held the number plate on. So this white stuff I can take off, but underneath that is another layer of double-sided tape, and it goes all the way to the end of the number plate, which means we can't put a short plate on, because if we do that, we've got bloody tape here which is going to lose the glue. So if I try and rub that off, that's literally going to take the tape off, which has caused us a bit of an issue, and I just don't get it. And again, that's just down to laziness of prep. I don't get that part of it, you know, like we've got so much to do that shouldn't have to be done. So what we're going to have to do is buy a new reg plate, but we're going to have to buy one that looks cool, but is a full-size reg plate. We can't really go with something that's going to be 5 or 6 letters. We're going to have to go with a generic sort of 7-digit number plate. So now we're on with the task of finding a reg plate that's going to suit this car.
Now what I'm currently on with is the really annoying job of masking every single piece of this car, and then fully bagging the car in order to paint the bits that should have been black back to black, because as we said at the beginning of the video, they're green, they don't look right, and it's just become a bit of a headache. This would have been much easier to be done as part of the initial prep, and obviously that wasn't done, so now we've got quite a long job in order to get this looking as it should.
So truthfully, we're pretty much out of time when it comes to what we're going to do on this. And this has definitely been one of those cars where, I'll be fair, myself and even Dan, one of the lads who we sponsor, who you've seen in the video, Dan's a painter, which is why I've asked him to come in, because he's got paint experience, but he's also done a bit of training with me to understand the difference between how a painter works and how a detailer works, which is what we train and show people on our training academy. So if you are looking to do any training of any kind, have a look on the website. We've been training people since 1999. But the reason Dan came in is his paint experience meant I knew I could tell him what I wanted to do in the way of wet sanding and using a Trizac and working with an older style paint without kind of monitoring, which, because today, to be honest, hasn't really been a day that I can spend any time on the car. It's now 7 o'clock, and that's why you see me working on it, because the client's gone for the day, and again, 7 o'clock in the morning, I've got another client actually due back in. So we are pretty much out of time. I'd really, really love to spend another 7 or 8 days going ballistic on this car, because the amount of paint that's on it, and it being old school paint, I honestly could get the best diamond finish you would ever see on a car ever. But the reality is, we can't do that. I want to do it. My head's been telling me to do it. I've been stressing a bit. I keep wanting to do more and more and more and more and more, and it's not really feasible. Couple of reasons why, obvious reasons. We've got working, clients come first. And as I said, this isn't the high value demo car we have. We've got the Porsche, which is going all over the internet with various things at the minute, and we've really spent hours, and I'm talking months of time and money on that car, and that is my pride and joy. We've got the Astra VXR. I love it to bits. I'm not going to be selling it. That's actually going on a ramp tomorrow, and it's going to be dry stored for a while because we're not going to be using it this year. Now we've got this, which is a real shame because I do love that car, but I'm also not going to be selling it. So it's going to get a wash, and it's just going to go on the ramp on storage for a while. And we've got this, truthfully, we've got this to a standard that 99% of people would think is impeccable, and we know it isn't. And that's just really us. That's how we have to work. We have to deal with that. The reality is when this comes out and you guys see it, you're going to look at it and go, it looks really good. You know, like, yes, it could be better to some people if you want to really pick fault and look at it closely. And I actually ask you to do that. You know, feel free to come up to this car and look at it super close and inspect it and criticise everything on it, because this is a backstreet paint job out of a barn that had mud and dust and dirt everywhere around it. It wasn't even a clean building. It was just a shed in effect, which works for that client and does what he needs it to do. But really, on a car that we work on, it's the opposite. It's just the opposite. That's all it is. So come and inspect it and have a look around it and tell us what we've been able to do in pretty much just 2 days, to be honest with you. And I say 2 days, I've had a day on it, Dan's had a couple of days on it. Dan isn't a detailer, Dan doesn't understand a lot of this, and he's learnt a few new techniques from me today using different types of buffers. And the job he's done on this, I'm going to say, Dan, I appreciate it. You have saved me a full day's work, because some of the stuff you've done on here is impeccable, and it meant I could then fix it and progress from there. And without you coming in for those 2 days, we wouldn't have even got this car where we need it to be. That's the truth. So massive thanks to Dan. So where are we now? Well, basically I'm going to leave it bagged up. I'm going to start shutting up, bring the cars in, finish off for the day and tidy up. We're going to have to clean the hell out of this studio now, because I've got PPF jobs in and there's a lot of dust from this car, from the way we've buffed it. I do still need to do the roof, to be honest, but I think I'm going to do it another day. It's something I can jump on at a later date, so I'm not too stressed about it. And the next video you're going to see on this is probably fitting all the new tech that we've got. So we have the latest digital cockpit going in out of the new G series cars and so on. And then we've also got the 12-point-something inch screen, which is massive, to replace the tiny sort of, I think it's a 4 or a 5-inch display that's in this, which is also going to give us Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and Waze and everything we need. And it's going to give this the look of a G series car inside, in effect. And again, they're things that we can supply and even fit for you if you want to improve your car, and they do make a big difference. So that's probably where we're going to be on the next video that you see. And here is a quick kind of walk round of the car finished. And just let us know what you think. And again, thanks for following the channel. I know some of these videos do drag on a little bit. It's a bit different to other people's videos because of what we do, and some of the stuff is a little bit boring, but I appreciate everyone watching. And if you do need any support or any help at all, give us a shout. Don't forget, the online store has the free wash guide, so if you're an avid detailer and you want to know the best way of washing it, you don't have to buy anything, you can go into the online store and download that. And again, just a massive thank you, and again, thanks to Dan. See you later.
I feel like then you leave when I'm hollow. Some days I get so low. It has to be you, has to be you.